My absolute favorite series of Harlequin stories was written by Maxwell Rowe. I'm very pleased to read for you now a new episode entitled The Labyrinth of Myths. The writer, Maxwell, was sitting in his writer's den, contemplating how he could possibly help Adeline break away from her family tragedy. As a writer, he had many options, but which path would he ultimately choose?
As a conscientious writer, I like to base my stories on thorough research. Homer wrote his epic Odyssey, book of poems, based on the Trojan War's final year, when the city of Troy, somewhere in Turkey, fell after a decade-long siege. Homer describes how the Greek warrior kings found their way back home after the Trojan War had ended. Many Greek kings were participating in the war. Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, was only one of them. In Homer's myths, Agamemnon features only briefly, as the writer chronicled mostly the journey of King Odyssey of Ithaca, who was subjected to an endless series of endurance tests on a 10-year-long journey back home from the Trojan War.
Maxwell, do you really think that listeners and readers of the 21st century are interested in such old matters now dated back 3,000 years or more, when the Trojan War raged?
We have wars even today, and they are supposedly fought over ideology. At least the Trojan War was fought because of pride. It all started when a Greek princess, Helena, was abducted to Troy. It started the Trojan War. And to make it all the more interesting, the beautiful Helena of Troy, although she was not originally from Troy, born and raised in Sparta, she was a full sister of no one else but Clytemnestra, Adeline's mother.
And?
Well, nothing. But I mean, the epic battle for the fall of Troy was about rescuing the most beautiful woman on earth, Helena, from the clutches of Paris of Troy. Helena had either eloped with him or had been abducted by him, the problem being she was already married to Menelaus, king of Sparta, who could not let happen this disrespectful event without revenge. Menelaus rallied all of the Greek kings, each of whom reigned over their own regions, which were part of what we now know as Greece. The fight against Troy was almost like a crusade, with numerous kings lined up to help King Menelaus of Sparta settle his score. Joining him were Agamemnon of Mycenae, Odysseus, king of Ithaca, Nestor, king of Pylos. Together, they would fight the Trojans, who had on their side capable warriors like Prince Paris of Troy and Prince Hector of Troy, who commanded the Trojan army. The latter was killed by Achilles, who was enlisted by the Greek kings to help kill Hector, who was nearly unbeatable.
Maxwell, you seem poised to do this project. I think you should do it. Complete it with all your typical passion until you are satisfied. I'm sure it'll make for a wonderful story.
Let's try. You see, I'm smitten all over by these wonderful Greek myths and tragedies. Of course, many people have been going down the same trodden path like me. Once you start reading the old Greeks' mythical stories, they grip you. There's no going back.
Sure, Maxwell. I think you're right. I'll definitely try taking a closer look at your final stories once you're done.
Here we go. See you then. To be fair to the present-day Turkish descendants of the Trojans, they did not start the animosity with the old Greek kings. Before Helena was abducted by Paris, Troy had been ransacked at least once before by Heracles, or Hero as the old Romans would call him. And one of his warriors, Telamon, had taken Princess Hesione as a war prize, and they had a son.
But even this story would be worth telling with all of its nuance, because Heracles and his aides really saved Hesione from being sacrificed to a sea monster named Cetus, finding her being chained naked to the rocks by her own father, King Laomedon of Troy.
My dear narrator, you obviously have been reading your classics too. Very well then. I shall start with training my attention on Athena, because in the case of the tragedy of the House of Agamemnon, she is the spider in the web.